I just wanted to do this quick video to update some of you who might be interested. I'm currently in the research portion of trying to figure out whether I can do a restoration of my old 2005 feature film, The Long Island Project. The Long Island Project was a no budget movie that I made a couple years after I moved to New York. It's my first New York movie. It means a lot to me. I shot it on PAL MiniDV on a camcorder called the Sony VX2000E, which I guess the E means it's the European edition of the VX2000. So I found a camcorder off eBay that can run PAL MiniDV, and I started rescuing some of the tapes. The problem was the camera wasn't in good condition, and some of the tapes aren't in good condition. So I returned the camera, got another camera, tested another batch of tapes, and it's kind of been a mixed bag. Some of the tapes got rescued successfully, so I managed to capture all the footage on the tapes and archive them. Great. A lot of the tapes, most of the tapes, aren't in such good conditions. The reels aren't spinning at the speed that they should be, and at a certain point, you can hear. With both cameras that I tried, you could hear it grinding. It's heartbreaking because I know for a fact that the footage is intact. Like, the footage is still good. It's just that the tapes can't get spun through the head quick enough for it to decode it. And so I'm currently well, first of all, I'm expending an enormous amount of energy just trying not to freak out about it. It was always terrible technology, and I always every time I made a movie on MiniDV, I always regretted just giving into it. What's happening now is I found one place that's willing to actually attempt to repair the tape. It's so weird to me that repairing MiniDV tapes isn't a bigger business, because so much of the early 2000s is documented on this format. And you figure the repairing of this format would be taken seriously. But every time I was looking online for something to do, there are a few tutorials which aren't for me. I'm like not savvy at all with that kind of stuff. I don't have the hands for it. But for the most part, people are like, oh, your footage is lost. Just forget about it. Save yourself the headache. Just throw out the tapes. You don't need to restore it. You don't need it. It's lazy, it's disrespectful, and it's just completely just somebody somewhere is going to listen to that advice and think that that's the advice. If the footage is on a tape, there must be a way to move that tape through a head, rescue the footage, and move on. So that was my mentality. So I finally found a place in Washington State. I'm not going to name drop them yet, because I just sent them my first test tape to see if they can repair it and to see if it works. And if they can make it move smoothly and do an archival capture, then I'll send them more tapes, and then I'll send them more tapes, and so on and so forth until I've restored everything. At which point I will let you guys know who they are and how my experience was. It's really important to me, though, that I kind of go through this process first. Some of the other things I'm doing with this restoration research is deciding whether or not to master it in the standard definition that it was shot in, or if I should attempt to play around with upscaling it. Because I tried to upscale Hero for a Day, which was the short film I did before that. I restored that last year, or the year before last year. And the upscaling, it didn't work. I mastered it as sort of an upscale movie, and I also kept all of the raw archival captures so that if I wanted to, I could go back and just have a standard definition just for posterity. But I don't know. I don't think the algorithms have arrived yet for good standard to HD upscale. And I think if the early 21st century was going to have a real hero in the technological arts, it's going to be whoever comes up with a way to upscale standard definition so that it looks stellar, and at the very least high definition. Not asking for 4K here, just 1920 by 1080. Hasn't arrived yet. But the goal right now is just to do archival captures of all this raw footage. I'm engaged in that. I'm committed to making this work because I know the data is on those tapes. And then I also had a graphic artist take the Long Island Project logo, which is just a tag that a woman named Leah created in Microsoft Paint. It's designed to kind of just be a tag where you put it all over the city and people look it up to see what it is. That was great when it was a standard definition MiniDV movie, but if I'm going to restore it for the future, I needed a high definition version of that logo. So I ended up having a graphic artist take the original bitmap, convert it to a JPEG, put it into Photoshop, and just kind of upscale it and clean up all the line work. So that's been done. We now have a high definition Long Island Project logo. And then I also have to figure out how to take the original visual effects files that were delivered to me and convert them to an Apple-based codec, because they were delivered to me as .mov files, but not .mov files that actually work in my Apple, which is weird because I've never experienced that before. And I realize it's probably because I was editing on an old version of Avid Express DV, which was just kind of a consumer version of Avid that you could get off the shelf. And whatever codec worked with that, I mean, I didn't really learn about codecs until 2008, 2009. So whatever the visual effects guy delivered to me, it was meant to work in Avid Express DV. So I got to take those files, convert them to a codec that Mac can recognize, and then decide, well, can I upscale these too? Like, it's such a convoluted, complicated project to restore the Long Island Project that I don't know if it's going to happen, how long it's going to take. So again, I'm in the research portion of this. We're going to see what happens. And honestly, I hope it does happen, because you know what? 2025 is the 20th anniversary of it, and I kind of want to have it done before then. So wish me luck. And you know what I'm about to say, right? You know what I'm about to say. This is going to cost money, people. Probably. I mean, it already has. The test tape I just sent to Washington State, there's a $40 tab to get the reels rehoused into a new cassette, plus the FedEx shipping costs. Plus, if I decide to have them do their own archival capture just to see what their quality looks like, that's going to cost some bank. And I'm going to do that for a whole bunch more tapes. So guess what? Oh, I have a Patreon. You guys probably already know that. There's a Patreon link in the description. You can also get to it through the main page of my YouTube channel. You can also go to my website, ericnorcross.com. Patreon. Patreon is everything, because the Patreon is built to help me finance restoration projects like this, help me finance some of my newer creative projects, not just films, but I'm also working on a graphic novel, which I'm going to need help with at some point. So I'm going to have to hire somebody to help me with that. But then also the podcast episode keeps the podcast going. So if you dig my content, if you got something to spare, you want to kind of contribute in some way to this whole thing that I'm doing, Patreon is everything. Anyway, guys, I'll update you on what is going on with the Long Island Project, because that's going to be a long process. It's going to be a hair-ripping out process from the looks of things. And when I find out really what is wrong with those tapes, I will let you guys know, because I'm pretty sure I'm not alone with this problem. I just think it's such a scary problem for most that some just don't bother dealing with it once they realize something's wrong. But I believe the footage can be rescued. I am optimistic. I understand the technology, and I understand too that these tapes are old, but they're not that fucking old. Thanks, everybody. Subscribe, like, join the discourse by commenting. Even if you hate me, let me know. Be nice, though. Bye.